That's what I noticed. Is like you have to do it quick.
Am I even on camera right now? Wait, if I close this. Okay, yeah, I'm on camera. Okay, but you can't see me.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
somewhere in there.
What is the best way to do this?
Also, does that say that it's recording?
Yeah.
Oh, for the last not is it counting down though?
No, I started recording.
Oh.
Oh, is that counting down? Yeah, it does that. I don't know why, but it is recording,
Interesting.
and yeah, it is recording, and but like it adds it to the normal time.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about,
yeah.
but that's okay. So what is this question you wanted to ask? What is this swimming question? As I
swimming
pull
question.
up the script so don't fuck it up this
Yeah,
time.
this was one of my favorite ones that I thought about actually just recently. So talking about animals, if you could swim with any one of the following 5 animals, knowing you wouldn't die inherently,
Yeah,
which would you choose? And I had dolphin,
okay.
great white shark,
Okay.
humpback whale, blue whale, and then orca. If you could swim with any one of those following 5 animals, knowing you wouldn't die, which would you choose? And I thought it was an interesting
Humpback whale
mix.
and a blue whale aren't gonna like inherently kill me. That might be one of the only 2 things on that list that won't. What about maybe dolphins? Not either.
I mean, I think any one of those, if they wanted to, they could
Well,
fuck
if
it.
they
Yeah,
wanted,
like
of
you're
course.
gonna be screwed.
I'd probably go blue whale or humpback whale because they're so big, and that'd
Yeah,
be kind of a cool
right?
thing to be like just a comparison of like how small am I compared to this massive beast.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
because I think not even think. I know blue whale is the largest animal to have ever existed on our planet, which is just almost unfathomable to think
Ever
about.
exists on the planet?
I believe
or like
so.
Modern.
No. I think all time animals, we're talking dinosaurs, whatever. I think it's the biggest animal to just ever have existed. Someone can fact check me on it, but I'm almost positive. So that would be cool to see a blue whale. But when I asked this question too, what do you think was the most? So you said between humpback or blue. Those would be your picks. When I asked this question to a couple of my classes that I coached, what do you think was the most selected answer?
Orca, probably.
Yeah.
Because we just talked about how
we
cool
did.
they were in the last episode.
We did. Orca was number 1.
Especially because they're so topical now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would
For
you
whatever
do?
reason. I also said orca.
Did you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Although it was orca, I was still on the train of thought with the blue whale and the humpback whale for exactly what you stated, to just be around a creature of that magnitude. Just like, damn, this thing is huge.
Right. It's like you couldn't even catch up to it. Like you'd be at its tail. Like I can't even get to like the eyes. It's just too. Like I can't swim that fast.
Massive. I mean,
It's just crazy.
Like size of
can't
what,
help
like
it.
2 school buses,
Yeah.
or something like that in terms of like length. Otherwise, I mean, great white shark. That would be something I definitely want on the bucket list. Go cage diving at some point. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. It'd be fascinating to see that shark just come on by. Dolphin, I just figured I threw dolphin in there because a lot of people I feel want to swim with dolphins. And you weren't going to throw in from another animal. Like I wouldn't put in a freshwater fish, and I wouldn't put in a giant squid, because who's going to select that one? I thought out of
Horrifying.
yeah, but like out of all the swimming creatures, like is there anyone that I would have missed in there that you think would have gotten more votes than those 5? Because I was trying to think
People
about
do
it.
swim with dolphins now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't, like, there's, I don't know, like a narwhal with the big tusk, but like I don't think someone's going to select that over a whale.
I swim with leopard seals.
That's a good pick.
Now,
Manta ray.
leopard. Oh, man, there we go.
That's the other one that I was
Yeah,
thinking about
okay.
in hindsight. I wish I would have thrown that one in too.
Yeah.
Leopard seal would have been cool too.
Leopard seals are horrifying, though. They are vicious creatures.
That's another one we anthropomorphize too. We always think they're like cute and cuddly.
They
and then
are,
like those
but
things
they're
are also
fucking-
savages.
Then they will destroy you. Yes, that sounds adorable. In the comments to this video / podcast,
Yes.
what of those animals would you like to? Which one of those animals would you like to swim with? Mm-hmm. And why?
That's the more important aspect of that question is why would you want to do that? Because I wanted to pick orca just for their sheer intelligence. They swim in pods. They're just fascinating creatures. Also,
The wolves of the sea.
wolves of the sea. They're also huge.
Yes.
Massive animals.
One of my favorite animals growing up.
Super agile. Yeah.
And hello, welcome to the Average Bros Gym podcast with your average hosts with eerily similar names. Kory and Croy walk you through fitness, health, and life advice, which seeks to meet you where you are at. No polarizing black and white takes, no threatening you and telling you the only way to do things. Just genuine advice and good conversation.
Always.
Always good conversation. Why am my voice getting so deep like this? Hello, everybody. So yeah, this is us. We're here talking about sea creatures and the sea creatures what we'd want to swim with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's us.
It's one of those fun questions of the day.
I like it.
I always try to come up with those. I think they're just like fun mental. What would you say? It's like a mental little game to play. Just in ways in which that you can engage in conversation with people in just a maybe obscure way.
Yeah.
Same thing like sitting around at the dinner table tonight. Yeah, just come up with like a fun little question of the day.
Date questions.
Great
like,
ones.
Maybe if you're on a date or something like that, or like you're nervous, let's kind of like write some of these.
Throw that one out on date one.
Throw it up. I mean, hey, you know what? It sparks conversation.
It does. It really
And
does.
They might think you're weird, but if they think you're weird, then you don't want to date them anyway. So whatever. Like it's fine.
That's one of the things.
That's a red flag.
Depending on what answer you get. Either like right after you ask the question, be like, there is a right answer to this, you know?
And if they refuse to participate, that is not someone you want to spend time with.
That's one of my favorite ways to kind of get a lot of like engagement amongst people within a lot of the classes that I'll coach to is simply just asking a question. They'd be like, hey, look to the person your left or right, say, hey there, hi there, ho there. And then, here's the little question of the day, spur on some conversation because of how many people I feel, I don't know, are a little bit awkward when it comes to engaging in conversation with somebody that they may not know. Be like, oh, well, here you go. Now I just give you a little like throw out there. That's an easy one to just start chatting about.
I feel like I've been told, these questions of the day remind me of something. I've been told that like I care a lot about really weird things or like really oddly specific things. And this is one of those things because you could say like, oh yeah, I really want to swim with like a great white shark. Motherfucker, what? Like, going this big conversation about it. Like, why? That'd be cool. I have not ever had the opportunity to go like cage diving or like cage with like sharks, but I would love to do that at some point. On like South Africa or like, Hawaii, wherever. I don't know where they do it.
I think generally, yeah, those are going to be the
coastal
locations.
areas.
Yeah.
Some island somewhere. Yeah, I'd love to do that. That'd be really cool. It sounds horrifying and like, God forbid that fucking like rope snaps and that cage just plummets to the
47 meters down.
Do I want to go cage diving anymore? I don't know. I'd have to inspect that cable before I went on it. But yeah, that was always something I'd wanted to do. To be honest.
Yep. And then regardless of all the safety protocols and procedures that are put in place, if you hopefully go to some like really qualified establishment, you're going to get into that cage or whatever. And nonetheless, you're still just going to have that innate human experience. Like, fuck, what if something goes wrong though? Like, what if the cable does snap? When was the last time this cage was inspected? Did they tighten those bolts? I don't know. That looks a little rusty to me.
Yeah. I mean, that is definitely something to think about, but, I don't know. I feel like that's probably fine, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to hope so at that point if you're already in the cage. I mean, it's the same feeling I remember having as a kid when you'd go to Valley Fair or an amusement park and you hop on the roller coaster and you're like, or if you want to go real janky and you're at the local town carnival, and you're like, man, when was the last time?
The rides in a town carnival.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you get some final destination thoughts that go through your head like, dude, I'm fucked. All right, this wheel's going to go.
I'm
done.
On the road and I'm behind like a logging truck, I'm like, fuck.
Now, is that a thing that only our generation knows? Like that because it's equated with the final destination thing?
I don't know. I don't know if you're listening to this and you're
in your
40s or in your 20s, let us know.
What's the newest generation?
Is it still X? Z? This is Gen Z.
Yeah. Does Gen Z even know?
Z? Is
you know what I mean?
Z squared now?
Something. Math.
I feel like, I don't know. But no, that terrifies me a little bit. But for sure, yeah, Megan is she loves like rides, like roller coasters, stuff like that too. And like I'm not, I know, I'm not that way at all, but I'm going to go on them to make her happy. But I'm like nervous. She's like, she's where I've never been, like Valley Fair. I was like, fuck.
Megan's never been to Valley Fair?
Well, no, I mean, she's not from here, so she didn't like grow up going. Because like we would go to Valley Fair for like a school, like the end of year trip, right?
Yes.
For school. But no, they didn't do that in Green Bay. So
Okay, then we're definitely doing a little double date to Valley Fair,
Oh,
or like
so
a
fucking
six.
scary.
What's a bigger one? Like Six Flags, right?
Six. Do we have one here? No.
I don't know, but I think that's more of a, from my understanding, I think that's a little bit more of a like robust park
Yeah.
rather than like Valley Fair. I think they got some maybe bigger rides than Valley
I
Fair.
will say so. Valley Fair, I feel like is pretty chill. There's
Yeah.
I really got into a while back like these YouTube videos. They were all about tragedies at
Oh God.
like amusement parks. I was just like,
Oh wow.
there's so many though, and but it was like this really like droll like British guy that was kind of narrating these videos, but I just found them like kind of like soothing, almost like relaxing. But then like he's telling about, oh yeah, like this person fell out of this like corkscrew ride, or like there was this.
Is this like a news report that you're watching?
No, it's like a kind of like almost like a YouTube documentary. Like it's like 14-minute videos, like nothing too crazy.
It sounds almost like a ghost hunters kind of thing, like they're talking about this like
no.
crazy story.
It's
like,
definitely
okay,
like not
in
high production, but it's
2009.
kind of cool. Yeah. Well, there's definitely these historically, I think in like the 80s, 90s, whatever. There's like these new amusement parks that pop up because I think they were really big for a while, especially like vacation like towns or cities or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so some of these videos are talking about these horrifying things that go on at these places, like they weren't inspected well enough, or like this company cut a lot of corners and these different things, like Adventureland. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong one.
sounds
I don't know.
Very oddly familiar.
But yeah. Anyways, I got hooked on watching those videos for at least like a couple months.
Couple months?
And I'm like,
I thought
oh,
this was
there's
like
a
an
lot.
afternoon delight that you were in.
No, I was like every week that I was like watching.
Oh my God.
I must see if I can find them. I don't know. Anyways, continue on. But yeah, so like I'm not a big ride person, but I know she is.
I was gonna say, look this up. I'm very curious. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do like a little double date because I haven't been to a spot like that in a while. Now that I think about it,
Amusement park
I think the last time I
rides.
would have been on a amusement park ride like that probably would have been when I was down in Florida for a band trip in high school, and then we went to Harry Potter World. We checked out all those rides, which were, I mean, epic. Those were
I
awesome.
want to go to really bad.
Those were really cool. So maybe, yeah.
Universal, right?
But any of those roller coasters, I mean, I think naturally as a kid, you're sitting there. One, you're already freaking out because you see it, you hear all the screams, you see all the speed of this thing, and then you're getting strapped in the
Yeah.
harness over your shoulders, and then you realize like, oh, I'm like fucking locked in place here, and they're having you take off your shoes because they don't want those flying off and hitting somebody about a mile on the opposite direction of the park or something. But like yeah, you hear the little like click, 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 click as you go up this massive incline to the tippy top of the hill, and it kind of slows down a little bit. You just come over the crest, and then you start looking down, and then you're like, oh shit. And then it just hauls ass, and you feel your stomach going to your throat. And I love it though. And then you're just on. It's so much fun. Love that feeling. Oh, nope, never mind. The last time I would have had that feeling was when I would have went skydiving with Abby.
Oh, right.
Yeah, would have went skydiving with
Yeah,
Abby.
you asked me to do that, and I said no.
I was really thinking I was maybe going to get you that morning. Yeah. So spur of the moment. Yeah, just message you right away like, hey, man, what you got going on this afternoon? You want to go skydiving? Hop out a plane?
I will do it, but I don't know.
All right, which would you be more, if we were to do a little double date, would you be more, well, I think I probably know your answer, but we'll either go skydiving or we'll go to like a Six Flags amusement park kind of thing. I feel like you'd be more inclined to do the amusement park.
Either.
I'll be on the water rides.
Give me that fucking pedal swan boat, bro.
Yeah, that.
Give it. I'm chilling. I'm gonna risk my life for some bullshit. I don't know. Like, it's just like, I don't know. Like, do you trust the people that work there? I don't.
The town carnival ones are a little bit sketchy when you're, yeah, those ones I think would be maybe a little bit questionable, but they're also not like the high velocity ones that you're going to have at a Six Flags. That again, you could have.
I've been to Valley Fair before. I've been on the wild thing. I've done the amusement park
Yep.
rides. It's just like I it's just like not my favorite thing. I mean, I already have anxiety as it stands. You know, like I don't know.
And then it's funny that you then watch or you went down a rabbit hole for months looking at terrifying reports.
Because I'm safely in my room, in my living room, safely in my apartment, watching. Wow, look at that shit.
So what were some of these stories that like happened?
Well, there's this place called Adventure. I think it was Adventureland.
think
I'll just, you know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not gonna look it up, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's this like a music park where it's like, you know, there's like a wave ride, you know, you can like do that was like way too aggressive, or like something like someone like got crushed or crazy
Severely
shit.
injured or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. And then there was like a ride that was like, it was like a kind of like almost like a sledding ride, like think of like bobsled.
Yep.
But it was like a cart on like wheels.
Mm.
And
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was a slide, but the slide was just like this kind of really, think of like almost like a basketball court, like outdoor basketball court type material. So it's just like really harsh,
Mm.
and you could just pick up so much speed that you'd fly off. And so someone has like flown
Oh, fuck.
off this slide, and I don't think it was like suspended in air at all, but it was like you still fly off going
Yeah.
however many miles an hour, you can still get hurt, like
Getting
really badly
ragdolled.
hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some other stuff too. And I'm sure I'm not quoting like specific moments too well. It's
Mm-hmm.
been a while since I've seen this video. But yeah, so I go down the rabbit hole with that kind of stuff.
Oh man.
Yeah.
See, my mind went to, and I'm sure it's probably happened at some point. And man, that would be horrifying. But like, yeah, you get a roller coaster or something that like legitimately goes off the rails or something. I don't know if that's ever happened. I'm assuming it's probably happened at some point in time in human history. But to
Or someone that's not like strapped in all
that would be the
someone where it's like that you know, that mechanism that locks in their thing,
That
like,
thing
function,
goes.
whatever, or like they're too
my God.
like tall
Could
or
you imagine
small
that?
or like skinny or like they're too big.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like,
that they
something
slip
happens.
out or
Yeah,
something.
oh my
They're not like securely fastened. That have you seen those? Well, obviously you've seen those videos where they're actually not strapped in. You can see their body like lifting out, like they actually almost got flung off this piece of machinery. Like they were that close to death.
This is not making me want to go.
Oh
to
man,
any sort
those or I'll come across those videos. Maybe not the amusement park ones, so maybe the algorithms got you on that one. But I got ones where like someone's like mountain biking right across like a mountain face, and then like their pedal slips or their tire slips a little bit, and you can see like the rubble and the ground kind of shift beneath them. Or you get a snowboarder going down some massive mountain somewhere, and then you see the avalanche storming behind them, and they just dip out of it just quick enough. Or the big wave surfer, and you see the wave crashing down. They just are able to squeak out the last minute. You're like, holy
And that's the
shit!
thing, like,
you were that close.
I fully understand that I'm saying these things knowing that I drive every single day, and like,
That one's crazy.
you know what I mean? Like, in you whatever you do, you take a risk. Like, if you wanted to live your life completely risk free of like injury or like potential death, like you would never do anything. You would
That's not
sit
even
at
a
home.
life.
Yeah,
It's not even a
impossible.
life.
I get it. You know, I go
fun being
hiking
in a
all the
bubble.
time, and something could happen when I'm hiking.
Oh yeah,
and you never know.
100%. Walk down the stairs, you fucking trip
Right,
and fall,
yeah,
bam,
yeah.
dumb. You know,
So, but if I can avoid taking too many unnecessary death-defying risks, I will do that. So,
it is funny. I wonder what the population, like percentage or ratio of people that very much enjoy or seek out those adrenaline
never been to
spiking behaviors. See, because I'm more akin of like, yo, sign me up, sign me up. Oh, that stuff is nuts.
yeah. No, it's interesting. I've just never been that way.
Yeah.
And, like I like doing, like, I think when I'm actually doing the act, I enjoy it. Except for roller coasters, I don't like those. But like, you know, if I'm for instance like tubing on the water, or like if I'm sledding or snowboarding or like doing something like
Yep.
that, I really enjoy that moment. I really
Yes.
enjoy that like adrenaline feeling. But like I don't know. There's something.
You're just gonna be on the bunny hill, like the just
Well, that's
little.
because I can't. That's just because I can't ski or snowboard.
Same. I've only gone like maybe once or twice.
I was bummed the one time that I've been in like the Alps. I had just recovered from ACL surgery, so I couldn't even like do anything.
Oh, that's shitty.
I could like walk, obviously, but I couldn't do like a sledding or snowboarding or and then sledding. I don't think they even have sledding on the Alps. But like I couldn't ski or I couldn't rent any equipment because I was just like I can't physically do it because I just would hurt myself. But
That is one thing I remember. If you remember watching Nitro Circus, you've seen Nitro Circus, right?
Can I leave? No, I haven't seen it.
Never.
No.
So
Was that Bam Margera? Who is this?
no, that's Dumb and Dumber, or not Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and
Jesus.
Dumber. That's
It's
bad.
not-
Well, yeah.
I mean, close. No, Bam Margera was part of Jackass.
Okay.
Nitro Circus was Travis Pastrana's crew.
Oh, okay.
And for anybody, if you don't know, Travis Pastrana started off as a massive motocross racer, then pioneered kind of freestyle motocross, was the first individual to do like a double backflip at the X Games, and then just spurred on. And Nitro Circus was his kind of crew that would do all these crazy stunts. It would be jumping out of airplanes with no parachute on, and then somebody else would grab him midair, then dump the parachute out and fly on down. They would do crazy stuff on motorcycles, and they'd do all these crazy backflips. And but they had it was the coolest shit to watch. It's so awesome. And one of the guys in his crew was also in a wheelchair, and some of the things that he would do, he would start up at a ramp, launch himself down, again being in his wheelchair, fly off this ramp, and he's doing like backflips and stuff. And it was just so cool to even watch individuals like that who, I mean, he doesn't even have like the use of his legs and is still willing to just literally fucking send it off this ramp 30, 40 feet in the air, doing like double backflips and stuff. I'm like, that is so awesome. That is so awesome. Love seeing, but or like the skiing and the Alps thing, like you had your ACL. I mean, and then there's people that, they might have a severe lower body injury. Maybe they don't even like have legs, and but they find ways in which that they can still participate in the activity, and they'll have
lazy.
No. What's your excuse, bitch? Like,
oh God.
Yeah. But those I always really I love watching those videos, and the individuals that are not gonna let a injury or a deformity or God forbid they don't even like have the limb, and they're still just gonna go out there and like seek out and pursue their dreams. I just think that stuff is so cool. And Nitro Circus being again one of those instances where you're talking about extreme sports, I guess you could say. And people all walks of life doing that kind of stuff is just so cool. It's so cool. It's so cool.
I mean, that might lead us into a topic of conversation today. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but what was kind of your idea? You kind of want to talk about a little more like milestones, things like that too, or just this concept of like being maybe like ahead or being where you should be at this time, personal, professional milestones. Kind of like, what do you want to chat about?
Yeah, I mean, kind of just touched on it, but I think we are both in a unique position right now where we do have a lot of moving parts in our life, and most people do, right? Whether it's professionally, maybe it's within your own health and fitness.
I was thinking of the wheelchair and moving parts. Go, yeah. Continue.
And just this idea that you have to be somewhere at a certain time. You have to follow the natural progression and rhythm, or again, you need to be graduated high school. You need to be, full career by the time you're at X, Y, or Z age. You got to be married and have a kid here, and then you got to follow the natural progression. There's your life path. Same thing with career. Are you continuous to make advancements within the company? Did you get the promotion? Did you get the business, up and running yet? Has your salary increased? Do you get better benefits in that area? Or have you, health and fitness wise, flip it and how many people, rather than just like a continued pursuit in their relationships or within their career, maybe from a health and fitness standpoint, you start like saying things like, I'm not in my 20s anymore, and they start to fall off the path a little bit. And just this idea overall, it's just, I think, a unique aspect. I just turned 30 in November. You're getting to those milestones, right, in your life, or perceived milestones as to like where you should be, and you kind of look around to your peer group and compare yourself as to where you're at. Like, okay, I might not be as set maybe in my career as that person, but my health and fitness is maybe a little bit more improved than that of theirs. Or relationally, like I got a really good group of friends and I'm building up this, relationship with my significant other, so I'm making strides there, and vice versa. And just how all of us, regardless of like where you're at in life, you have this notion or this maybe idea and perception that you are either on pace, you're leading the pack and in front, or maybe you're like you find yourself way behind. And when you're in that position where you recognize or you perceive yourself to be ahead of the pace or behind the pack, like, are you willing and or wanting, and do you have the capacity to make that change, and what is that going to look like so you could steer your course in a different direction? So that's kind of what I thought was just a unique aspect. Like, you're looking at a different route, potentially like moving in, you know, with another person. Like, that's a big stage in the relationship wise. And so I thought it was a unique area that I kind of wanted to just pick your brain about a little bit, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we can all relate to that at a certain degree. I mean, I think especially with like, I heard recently, of course, you and I both know Anna said, comparison is a thief of joy.
It's so true.
She was mentioning the other day, and I think of like, I think of it, and a lot of this podcast, I hope, is not just me shitting on social media, because it is, a very valid part of like businesses and spreading, word about things like that too. But, I think it's very easy to see people that like, I mean, look at your search page and how many people are like travel accounts, or like, people doing like build big home renos or something like that. Like Meg showed me, a video yesterday about like this travel nurse that she follows, and this person is like, there was a very honest video of this travel nursing contract that this woman was doing, but she was outlining like how much she made in a certain amount of time. I was like, holy shit. Like, it was just so different than what I'm used to. And like, props to her. I mean, travel nurses,
Okay, you're saying in terms of like how much she
yeah, she
makes
was, yeah, a ton of
and
money,
yeah.
basically, which is fine. I want people to be paid for what they're fucking worth.
Oh, absolutely.
But it
Yes.
was easy for me to be like, oh man, like I don't make that much money. And so I think like when you're exposed to a regular stream of people that might be like traveling more, or they might be like building a house when it's like you're trying to save up for one, or like, someone who has a family and maybe you are struggling being single, right? There's a lot of like, you're exposed to it very regularly.
Oh yeah.
And so I think it's very challenging to say like, oh, I should be here, I should be here, I should be here, and you're not, and you feel like somehow that lessens your value as a person. I think for women, especially as far as like families go, things like that, like there's that kind of like, people, they're told the biological clock. Oh, like you got to have kids when you're this, you're gonna do
Yeah.
this or this. And I think that's an unfair expectation that's placed on women from society. That's like, okay, you should be here this point, this point, this point. And I think that's always really tough to compare yourself to. And I think there's especially too, and maybe that's more like familial, or maybe that's more like kind of like family structured in one side. On the other side of that, there's like the financial side of it. It's like, oh, by this point, like how many fucking videos, and like this is a rant that I have. People post these like, stories or whatever on Instagram all the time, and it's like, if your crew isn't like doing this at 5 a.m. and like doing this at this, you're running with them. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Stop. I hate that shit, because I think what you have is people taking their own like personal values. Like, if you value the grind, if you value waking up at 4 a.m. to like get on a business call with whatever your thing is, that's fine. But then don't like attribute that to the rest of it. Don't say then, okay, this is how you all measure your self-worth. So if you measure your self-worth by the amount of productivity that you can attain, great. Like, if that is your self-worth, cool, awesome. But don't then say should be everybody's self-worth, because I think I'm going on a rant. I apologize.
No, go for it.
But I think like in our culture, like we measure ourselves by our productivity, and it's
We
like,
do. We really do.
you have no time to actually relax, because like, oh man, I should be doing something else right now. And I find myself, even with this podcast, we've struggled of like, man, like, should we be like, Kory and I could do this for 200 episodes,
Yeah.
and not release a Patreon, not do anything this or that. But in my head, I'm like, man, well, we should probably like monetize this in some way, and we will be. But like for me, that's like, it's like you can't. And Ellen touched on this a little bit when we had her on an episode. So go listen to episode 6.
Great episode.
Great episode to listen for Ellen on this. But it was kind of like, it's a lot of times we're not allowed to do things just for fun.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to just kind of do things because we like doing them. There's this pressure of like, I should I should monetize this in some way.
Yeah,
Or
like what's the outcome? Like, what are you going to
yeah,
be able to get from that?
I should make this more productive
Yeah.
for attaining something
Hmm.
else in that way. So
Yeah, like you're engaging that behavior, but you don't get any, monetary benefit from it. Like
yeah.
you're just putting it out there just to put it out there.
Hmm.
Yeah, like some of the pages that I follow, uh, or bits that I'll see too. It's like, okay, wait, you're not a millionaire by 30, and why are you not already able to retire by the time you're 45? And if I was in your position right now, I would do X, Y, and Z and get that thing to then put into this account and into that account and to like do all these other things. And I'm like, all right, like that was also just nothing I was ever even taught about in school. So that's cool. I have no idea how to just, I don't know, be a adult and a functioning adult. Like I feel like it doesn't really prepare you. We talked a little bit about education and whatnot in just the last episode, where you don't have like the physical education that's getting cut out. But I mean, I don't remember anything about like finances, money. Like here are the routes in which you should go, and then you talk about the state of our current affairs. Like we're looking for maybe a new spot to live, and then cost of home ownership and that, like price increases. And then you can talk about stocks and all this other stuff. And you're like, man, you see somebody maybe excelling in that area, the travel area nurse, and you're like, holy shit, I feel like I'm just so far behind. Or you can get that thought, right? And then you just put yourself in that little bit of that well. And then it's not to say that on every little metric that you're comparing yourself against other people. It's not, you probably are excelling or doing something really, really well. And also the idea that those people that you are looking up to on these pages, we also inherently know and understand not a single one of us on this planet entirely have all of our shit together. Like we all are dealing with some little inner demon, struggle, battle, hardship, negative self-perception. Yeah, what's the term that I'm thinking about? When you already are in a perceive, you're that person. Uh, oh my gosh, I'm spacing here, and you don't think like you should be.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, thank
Yeah.
you. And like, so you can have people that you're again looking up to, you're like, oh my gosh, I aspire to be them. And they are waking up, putting their pants on, same way you fucking do every morning, and are just like looking around at the life that they've been fortunate enough and have worked their ass off to get to. And again, I touch on 2 points in there. Fortunate enough because maybe they were just blessed and gifted with the opportunity at that right time that presented itself because of your situation, and you were in that family and you had that opportunity just luckily given to you to a degree, but then also you had to work your ass off to be able to get there. And then they might be looking around their fucking 8-story mansion, one of 12 that they have around the country, and they're sitting there having the same exact thoughts that you are, and you're looking around at your apartment and you're looking at your beat up 94 Toyota Corolla. And then you can go all the way down the other end of things where it's like, you're wondering where your next meal is going to come from, and all of a sudden it starts to spiral, and it's just always that constant comparison. Like, oh my gosh, am I doing what I need to be doing? You only get this one life, this one opportunity. Am I making continuous strides? Are you repeating the same day over and over and over again? We all are battling with those like thoughts and ideas of how to progress.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it goes to, what your personal idea of success is.
Yeah.
And I think when you do have that kind of like comparison of like where should I be at this point, or like we should be doing this at this age, I think it's easy to see other people's definition of success and then attribute that to yourself. If you don't have a strong sense of that, you're on your own, which I'm not going to fault you for that. But I think that's when you get into the idea that you're looking at someone else's idea of success. You're saying, well, why don't I have this? Why don't I have this new car? And I think a lot of people view success differently, or maybe inside like themselves have an idea of what success looks like, but they think it looks like this, right? I've known people that make a lot more money than I do, probably double my salary, but they also work 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
And that sounds terrible.
Awful.
I would never want to work. I would never
Nope.
want to be answering calls at 3 a.m. because, I've got an international call with someone in Thailand, whatever that is.
Like you're sitting down at your desk and you're looking at your email inbox just continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you're 15 voicemails behind. And now it's like,
Yeah.
you got to get to the X, Y, or Z spreadsheet. And like, fuck, man,
I
that's.
don't want to be
Yeah.
with my partner and be looking at 4 different screens because I have to make sure that something goes correctly and it's 11 p.m. and we want to go to bed.
Yeah.
You know,
But you got deadlines.
we
gotta get there.
deadlines. And that's the thing. And I think for me, I love having free time to do things, and that's why I think you talked about kind of like the richness and like the fame aspect. I would never want to be famous because
God.
that's a level of, and it could be some. I mean, and maybe being well known and having that fame is some people's level of success. For me, I would never want to sacrifice that private life. Even this is us talking about our lives for a lot of people, but that privacy is very important to me. But the idea that I kind of lost what I was talking about.
Well, so to go on that, like, did you ever watch the movie Air?
You just saw it, so I know you're going to talk about it. You're already, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the Nike one, right?
Yeah. So for anybody that hasn't seen it,
No spoilers, Kory.
well, I mean, if you know of Michael Jordan, then you probably, and if you've ever worn a pair of Nike Dunks or Jordans, then you pretty much are part of the story. So Nike at the time was you could say, I don't know, middling shoe company at that time. Converse and Adidas were the top dogs in that area of industry. Running was more known for like the jogging aspect of things, and they had dabbled in basketball. And anyways, it follows the storyline of when Nike made the choice and pursued Michael Jordan to be their guy in the basketball department. And it's funny because you're looking at the storylines of Phil Knight and Sonny. I'm going to space on his name. I'll just say Sonny V. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. But Sonny was you could almost say like, I don't want to say like recruiter, talent agent, whatever. He saw Jordan as like, that's our guy. We need to go get him. Right. Phil Knight being the owner, operator, CEO of Nike operations.
Nike,
yeah. Right. And it's funny because they touch on a little bit of, you look at draft picks, like, oh, hey, we're going to go pick, they were trying to figure out who are they going to align their campaign with. And they're looking at the draft order and you see some of the names on the list, some of which you and I are going to very well know. It's like, oh yeah, there's John Stockton. He turned out to be a Hall of Famer. Oh, there's Michael Jordan. You definitely want to go get him. Akeem Olajuwon, that MVP guy. And they're sitting there trying to determine who they're going to push their campaign to. Make millions like behind this decision can alter the course of trajectory for not only that company but millions of lives with this one decision to pursue Michael. And it could have just came down to a little change of heart, change of decision, like, oh, we're just gonna go that route. But they ended up choosing and pursuing Michael Jordan through their hard work, their effort. But again, they had the opportunity and they took a risk, and they luckily, turned out to sign Jordan. He goes on to become one of the greatest basketball players ever. I didn't say GOAT for anybody out there that's hating.
LeBron James did just pass 40.
No shit. Let's be honest, and let's revisit this conversation about 20, 40 years.
40,000 points.
Insane.
I think the next person closest behind him is like 12,000 away.
Yeah, so that's a whole other.
Averaging 30 points a game for like 20 years.
He's fucking nuts. We were watching one of. I mean, kudos, tip of the cap to LeBron. You are unbelievable. Pantheon.
He's listening to this right
all
now.
All great. So LeBron, yes, man.
Good job, LBJ.
And so then Nike with Phil Knight, Sonny Vaccaro, I think that's what Vaccaro, are able to land Michael Jordan as their lead person in this campaign, and then goes on to now Michael Jordan becoming the highest paid athlete all time. He's worth like I think I saw the other day, like $3.76 billion. And a lot of that was credit to, again, his work on the basketball court, being one of the greatest players ever. But it literally could have came down to like Phil Knight in that moment had a decision like, I don't want to really spend that money. I'm going to go this route, and completely changes and alters the course of direction for not only of that company, of Michael Jordan, but billions of people worldwide.
He chooses Johnny Stock instead.
Yeah, and just completely alters it. So some of those things where you're, luck and your fortune. I mean, it all just kind of coincides with with that hard work, and then you get an instance like this where what is that classic line where it's like preparation meets opportunity, something along the
Like
lines of that.
luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
That's
But
it.
there is also definitely, there's sometimes it's literally luck, right?
Yeah. Or it just goes complete opposite
Yeah.
way. You fucking bam, snap your femur. Oh, there goes Jordan's career. Done.
Yeah.
Boom. And it could have, like, what could have been.
Yeah.
And how many people sit in that route where it's just like, oh yeah, they never maybe quite make the leap, or they do fall on hardship, not to their own accord, but like, oh yeah, the company just went under and I lost my job. Oh, I was really making some good strides in my health and fitness, and then bam, this injury, or oh, I got cancer.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden that switches. You were in a long-term relationship. You thought you had everything. You'd like the kids, the house, the dog, and then bam, like,
Damn, you went from
you know what I mean?
cancer.
But
That
like,
was,
yeah,
that's
but
a
like
big leap, but
all of those things where it's like, again, you're always going to be that constant comparison of like, oh my gosh, am I where I want or I feel as though I need or should be?
Well, and I think too. I think sometimes we get with comparison. It's like almost like a really linear trajectory of comparison versus acknowledging that your definition of success, your definition of failure will change over time.
Yeah.
I think so for me, like in my personal life, I played baseball growing up, and I was quite good, and a lot of that was that I had opportunity to kind of play not quite all year round, but a decent amount. My parents got me involved in like baseball camps early, so again, that's luck / preparation. Like
Yep.
they had the money to do that. A lot of people do not, right?
Yeah,
And
sports
then
can be expensive.
absolutely, especially you put them into like a camp for youth, and like
Oh yeah.
that's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to play with like a pretty good traveling baseball team with a lot of guys. Ended up going to the minor leagues for sure. And then I also was able to do I was able to do like hitting coach stuff. So I was able to like do that every week during the wintertime. So I was like I was still hitting baseballs in the wintertime, which I had a big leg up on a lot of people in the area that didn't have that opportunity.
Oh yeah.
And so I played for a while, and I was good enough to go Division two. And I was 17 years old. And what follows is one of the silliest things I've ever done in my life. But I got letters from Upper Iowa University, which, if you don't know, is Division two school. They play in the same conference. I think that's like Mankato. And I was like, this sounds like I don't know. I think I'd gotten a letter from a community college earlier in like the month, and so for some reason I was like, oh, this is another community college. I never looked them up. I never responded to the letter from the coach. Never looked them up. Never even like engaged at all. And I was like, it wasn't until years later I didn't. And spoiler alert, didn't end up playing. And it wasn't until years later that I looked them up, and I was like, they're Division two. I was like, I'm fucking stupid. That I did not like. It wasn't that I didn't even look it up.
Never.
And
Not
it's
once.
like not even once was I like, let me Google
Yeah.
Upper Iowa University. You know what I mean? Because this was 2008.
So it was
2009.
Googleable.
It was Googleable
It was-
at the time. Yeah, it wasn't like I had to like find an encyclopedia at the library, right? Or write back. And then I think I ended up going to community college, and I ended up trying to transfer to a school out east to play baseball, and my grades were so bad that they just didn't like. I was in conversation with this coach, Emerson College in Boston, which is Division three.
Oh, no shit.
Division three.
Emerson. Okay.
Well, and they were, I forget you lived in Boston.
Yeah.
And they
Not
were-
because Emerson is like a huge college or something, but yeah, just for anybody
Boston.
listening lived in Boston.
Corey used to live in Boston. So, and they were like, and at the time I was doing film stuff, and they're like a pretty film centered school. And I was in conversation with the coach, and my grades were so abhorrently bad. My first semester of college.
Not a studier, huh?
I had a 0.66 GPA.
What?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was.
wow.
Yeah. You might be asking yourself, how is that possible? I will tell you how it's possible. So I was living in an apartment with 3 other guys. Shout out Arthur, Alec, and Marcus. Good, all good, very, very good humans.
Good dudes.
But we were all 18 years old, living on our own.
College campus.
It wasn't even college campus.
Or
I mean, it was
well.
kind of college. It was off of the University of Minnesota campus. But
Okay.
we were all going to community college, MCTC. So it's like we already kind of didn't treat it like super.
Yeah.
And we're also from the area, so we had a ton of friends still around that we all knew because we're all from Minneapolis, right? Or like I think Arthur's from Chicago, but we'd been living in Minneapolis for a long time,
Yep.
right? So we were all knew the area, so we all had friends. So we just partied a lot, you know what I mean? And so my first semester, it was also tough because I was taking a city bus. I was taking the 6 or 4. I think it's the 4. I was taking the bus to and from
Or you get a bus
downtown Minneapolis from the University of Minnesota campus, which is like just northeast of downtown Minneapolis, if you don't know. But, I was in film school, and I had like a camera, tripod. Like I had all this equipment I was lugging back and forth with my backpack because I was also like,
oh, damn.
in my head, I was like, I'm going to do film school, but also I'm going to take prerequisites because I kind of wanted to do film, but I also kind of wanted like that stereotypical like campus life.
Yeah.
And so I was already in my head, I was like, I'm going to transfer. Not knowing the film program was kind of geared towards people who like really want to do film. And it was like 2-year program. So it's like, you could just do that and be done. And like,
Wait, so the film program really was geared towards people that wanted to do film?
Yeah. Fun fucking fact. But like, God damn it. So, plot twist.
Whoa.
I know, crazy. But I think in my head it was like I'm gonna do film because I like it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that but what the program really entailed. Right?
Yes.
I didn't understand what it was actually going for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, theoretically you're doing the program for 2 years, you're done, like you're in the film industry. Versus I was like, I'm gonna do the program, but also like take math and like also try to transfer. Like I just didn't really know what I was doing yet.
Because you're again how old at this point?
18.
And then so
Just
freshman
turned
year.
18.
Freshman year.
Yeah.
Yep.
And 18-year-old boys are fucking stupid.
That's like
So many ways.
That's most 18-year-olds.
So many ways. So like, yeah, so it was tough for me, and I honestly, I didn't have my parents there, and I didn't realize how much, like my mom especially, I didn't realize how much she like kept me on track until I had the freedom of just not going to class. And again, I'm not on campus, so it's like I have to take a 15-minute bus ride to get there, which is not a bad deal, but I think when I was 18, it's very tough to like prioritize those things. Wasn't driving, right? So it was like at some point, I just kind of stopped going to math class and just eventually dropped that one, right? And
One morning you just woke up, you're like, fuck it, I'm not going.
Yeah, dude, I kept missing. I would miss a class, like one class a week, and then eventually I missed like 7 absences already, and I was like, I just kind of stopped going. And then I was in English, and I was doing that because I was also trying to do I was trying to like get basic generals done.
Yep.
I was in English class, and also same thing was like I was going very, very intermittently. And then at one point I had a conversation with the professor, and she was amazing. She was like, if your schedule or if like your home life or like whatever going on, because again, at that point, like I'm living with 3 other dudes. We're all kind of like a little irresponsible for the most part, partying on the weekends. Like I wasn't doing anything too crazy, but at the same time, I wasn't doing homework. I wasn't doing schoolwork.
Yeah. Now, can I ask, like, those 3 that you lived with, were you said they shared a very similar mindset in terms of mentality and approach to school, or like they also kind of like, not taking it all that like
they were probably doing better than my broke ass was. To be honest.
Okay.
Like,
but it wasn't like you got.
They were getting 0.66 GPAs.
Okay, so like it wasn't like you got home and they were just fucking gaming all day or something like that.
Well,
like, all right.
Yeah, I think in general. I mean, I think.
Keeping their head above water.
I don't exactly remember it, so I won't speak for them
Mm-hmm.
of like who actually got through that program.
Okay.
At community college, I know that a couple of them did, but I won't go into too many details because I just don't remember.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it was kind of in general we didn't treat it seriously. Not that we didn't say it, not that anybody was like, oh yeah, fuck school, but it's just like we weren't treating it very seriously in general. And so. I think they all went through this 2-year program and got their generals done and were fucking good. Or maybe it took them like a 1 year extra, but like I did not do that.
Yeah.
Well, I did later on. But so anyway, first semester, so I ended up dropping English as well. My professor had like a frank conversation with me. He was like, if you can't make it here, like we can't keep doing this. And I was like, that's fair. But it was such a struggle for me with like the equipment for film, and like my film instructors were, I didn't know how to ask for help either. This goes back to like my upbringing and just like my need for therapy. And I didn't know how to ask for help. So I was like just fucking off in class for like film production because everybody else was like editing their movies and I had nothing to edit because I just didn't film anything.
You're like, dude, I ain't
I
even
didn't
got
film
a
anything, so I
shot.
had nothing to edit. So I was watching like Thursday Night Football, and so it's like on the because we're all on the computers, and it's like yes, looking back on it, you can say like, wow, that was really irresponsible. You should have been like, hey, I really need help. But like as an 18-year-old who has never asked for help and is too, and I am very, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very smart, but my application of that intelligence has been historically a little bit scuffed. I don't always apply it the way I should or at all. So, and but my professor would just like walk past me, like watching sports and just kind of like make a joke about it, but like not offer to help. And that was kind of annoying too, because I think like, yes, I should have asked for help, but also like as a professor, like you also have a fucking responsibility to be like, hey, like why are you not doing this? Not be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Dumbass bitch. Sorry, sorry. Maybe cut that last part out. But yeah, I don't like that guy. Anyways, so that was really frustrating for me. And then like, so anyways, I ended up, so I was taking 5 classes, dropped 2 of them. And so I was only in 3 classes and I failed 2 of them and got a C in the other one. So my grades were F, C, and F.
Dang.
So that was 0.62 GPA.
Wow.
And that was at that time. That was when the Emerson baseball coach stopped responding to my emails.
So then what was that moment where like there was that shift, right? So we're talking about expectations, viewing where you're at within your life right now on a multitude of different, metrics. So you're sitting there looking at your peer group in school. We've all been there too. You get the people at the top of the class getting A's and everything, like, oh my gosh, they just got an application to Brown from, to go to college there or whatever. And then meanwhile, somebody, yeah, is like, okay, community college, they didn't even go to school. What was that moment for you when, I mean, was it when you saw your GPA and you're like, oh fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, what was that like spur of the moment change where you're like, oh, okay, I need to start making a course correction here a little bit? Or was there an opportunity that was presented to you that, thankfully you were able to, kind of get that ticket out?
I don't know. I think historically, I think when I was younger, I was way more influential. So when I applied out of high school to college, I applied to University of Madison, I applied to University of Minnesota, both for the biological sciences department, because I really loved biology, and I applied to like MCTC. I think I visited Winona State, but I didn't apply there. So I was on the got waitlisted multiple times from both Wisconsin and Minnesota, from Madison and Minnesota. Like they're like, hey, we're waitlisting you for the biological sciences. Like we're gonna see if we can get you into liberal arts, and then waitlisted for that too. So I think after that, I don't know if I was just feeling like down or what, and that led to like an increased kind of idea of like fuck it mentality when I was at MCTC. But I mean, I think that moment was probably looking at my GPA and being like, I literally am on academic probation at a community college, and that's not to bash community colleges, but like, come on, you know. And I was 18 years old and I was living at this place, and like I just felt really like I had that come to Jesus moment of like I'm so much smarter than this. Like this is ridiculous. Like what do I want my future to be like? And that's tough, and that's like a really hard look to like that's a really hard moment to like look yourself in the mirror figuratively and say that. So like that the next semester I did end up dropping out of the film program. I said, well, I obviously am not taking this as seriously as I need to take it, and I'm already behind. So I dropped out of the film program, only signed up for generals. So I did like I picked stuff that is general ed, but I really enjoyed doing. Like I took like a history class that I loved. Like world history was fucking awesome. I think one of our assignments was to like write an essay on about like a movie, like a historical movie, historical fiction, and like compare the actual historical events to the historical fiction. And that was awesome. I did Troy and I did like 300.
Nice.
Like, and those movies were just coming out of the time. So it's like those were like, the Brad Pitt.
Yeah, those
Troy.
actually did coincide in terms of when their release was. Yeah.
So that was like a cool moment for me. And I was like, oh, like I can talk about like the Trojan War, like the epic of like the Homer wrote obviously the Iliad and the Odyssey, and kind of like what that actually like, because obviously the historical aspects of it are still kind of like mixed. But being able to compare it to that, and then 300 with like the Battle of Thermopylae and like the Spartans versus the Persian army, and like that kind of stuff was really cool to talk about.
You can tell he really got into
it. Yeah, I got super into it. And so like, so I got straight A's next semester.
Nice.
I had taken French and that's why I actually ended up majoring in French, because I had taken it throughout middle school and high school, because my dad's family is very heavily French Canadian. And so I had taken it then, and then I was like, you know what? I'm looking for classes to get me back on track. So I was like, I've already taken a little bit of French. Like, let me see if I can do this. And obviously, in college courses, like it's expedited. Like, I probably went through 3 years of middle school and high school French in the span of like one semester in college.
Nice.
But it was really cool to have that. And actually, really like that made me kind of keep going with it. And then I ended up taking like some Spanish as well. But like, I mean, that kind of ignited my drive again. And I think I definitely ended with like I don't think I got straight A's like every other semester afterwards, but it was pretty goddamn close.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the University of Minnesota, I still had my issues, but I ended up getting like a 3.2 or something like that, which is like average. It's fine, right?
Yep.
It's good. But that was yeah. I mean, that was like me kind of looking at what I like how I wanted what I wanted for myself and like what that success looked like to me. And at the time, it's like, man, like what do I want to be doing? Like I don't want to be. I don't know. I wanted something more, right?
When it's like looking at in that comparison with other people and then within yourself too, like, am I realizing my full potential? You only get one ticket on this ride, and I don't want to be looking back on my deathbed being like, oh man, what could I have done, or what should I have done, or had I just been willing to put in a little bit more work. And I feel for so many people that are very successful within their given discipline, within their career or relationship, I mean, you're going to hit those little rock bottom spots where, like how you said, you're looking at your GPA and you're
Very
like,
much rock bottom.
yeah, and you're like, oh fuck, like this is not where I want my life to go. This is not the trajectory. Like I am not happy or content like with where I'm at, and like that just like lights that fire where you now are trying to figure out like, all right, where's my passion? Where's my purpose? And I'm gonna be fucking hell bent on getting to that place because like right now where I'm at, I am not happy. I am like just wallowing right now in this like little pity party or something, like woe is me. I mean, and again, some of those can be self-induced, like you're in that like, oh fuck yeah, I probably should have been studying, or but then at the same time you look at that and you're like, I kind of needed to go through those phases. I needed to go through those like trials and tribulations, those hardships where you really have to be introspective and figure out, okay, where do my values align, and what am I going to do to get myself out of that little hole that I kind of found myself in, or dug myself into. One of the ways you can fall into it just as much. But yeah, to go from that to now where you're at, I feel like so many people have a story similar to that. I can't imagine being like a kid. Could you imagine being a kid if you were just gifted everything? I always wonder about that sometimes. If like you were just, you're the son or daughter of somebody that's just got it made.
Yeah.
And like, and what hardships do you go? I mean, and it's a different hardship,
Yeah. Well, it's crazy to think about because, like, I'll be honest, like, my parents are pretty middle class. Like,
Yep, same.
it's not like I don't come from a status that a lot of people that may be listening or people like people in the area come from, right? I didn't have to worry as a kid, at least, where my like food was coming from or from like my shelter. Like it was always there, right? And although my parents had marital issues, like I still had two parents under one roof, right? And that is something that a lot of people cannot say. So
True.
growing up, and I was also very fucking smart. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was very intelligent, but again, my use of that intelligence was never very good. There were things that I really really did well at, but there were other things where I was like, I thought that it was really like I wanted to be cool, so I would like hang out with these kids, and like these kids weren't that good, weren't that nice. There were a lot of times I fucked up friendships as a child, and then when you're a child, obviously you don't have context, but it was like, I treated people really poorly or like was kind of like a bully because like I thought I was cool or like I thought I was like here and I thought these people were cool and this is what they thought was really funny. And so like I was very smart, but I was also like I wanted to like fit in. I wanted to be this and that.
That social pressure, yeah.
Absolutely. And to go back to ton of like the rock bottom I hit in community college, it was like, well, I had to make sacrifices because if my definition of success, if I thought success was like partying with these people, and again, the roommates I had were amazing. Like, they weren't the reason that I was failing this, right? It wasn't their influence, but if I didn't make the sacrifice of like I stopped partying as much, I think maybe like every now and then I probably like hang out with them, but like I wasn't down there every weekend. I was sequestering myself to my fucking bedroom, like I was closing the door, I was like doing my work. That took sacrifice. And I also tried to like some other strategies I had was like I would find friends that were like in classes. Like I had a couple people that like that I went to high school with that were in like one or two of my classes, even though like we might not have talked too much in high school, like we became close, and I was like, hey, can you help me with like studying? Like we kind of like partnered up a little bit. So I was looking for, like peer study groups or like peer research groups to like help me stay on track and stay accountable. In the same way that like people in the fitness realm would look for coaches or look for other
Yeah,
people that
community.
accountability partners. Like we have a lot of people at Orange Theory that come in with like their loved one, or like their partner, or like their family member, or like their friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that was me trying to find someone to help me with my academics.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also and it takes that sacrifice to do. And I also had I did end up like moving home at some point to like really better focus on that kind of thing too. And that was hard in its own right, you know what I mean? But I
Oh
think,
yeah.
but I was also, again, to your point from earlier, yes, I took that upon myself to do that, but I was also lucky enough to have the opportunity. Whereas, I know a lot of people that as soon as they turned 17, 18, like they were out the house and they couldn't come back, because their family life was not the greatest, or economically it wasn't a possibility, or again, maybe they're moving away from their family. And it's like, hey, if I want to stay in this city, I have to find a place to live. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky in that sense as well, but my my definition of that had to change. My definition of like what I wanted for myself had to change.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like, yeah, that was I know we talked about this starting with baseball, but that was a very low point for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Well, and then it always your definition of success and your definition of what makes you happy. All of those things are always going to constantly change too. Like there's never that end spot that you get to within your career, within your relationships, within your health and fitness, where you're like, I fucking achieved it, and then bam, that's it, you're done. Like it's always going to ebb and flow, which is why I feel it's very challenging conceptually to kind of think about that. Like, okay, where do I want to be in 5 years and 10 years, when people are thinking long term, to figure out the direction and then the steps in which that they need to take to be able to get to that point, which again, they're thinking is going to potentially bring them happiness.
Sure.
Like, if I just had the house, if I just had that job, if I just had the, I really want like kids, or I really want whatever. And it's like, yeah, but then it's going to come with its own battles and hardships and direction. And like, how many people get, I imagine, also caught up in like being just comfortable enough that they don't make any other like really big changes. You know what I mean? Like they have the job that pays well enough that they enjoy enough, but they still come home kind of like complaining or bitching about it. They aren't necessarily making any sort of like crazy pursuits within their like health and fitness, or trying to work on that, because I'm a little bit older now and I don't really want to push myself to do this race or compete in this thing or challenge myself in this capacity. And then you've hit like a ceiling a little bit, like you're fine, everything like finances, maybe career wise, is like kind of fine, and then it's just like you hit this like level of like stagnation in a way.
Do you feel like that is in itself, though, that feeling of stagnation, do you think that has an effective comparison? Because there are plenty of people that I'm sure don't mind or like being comfortable.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what they want.
Yep.
I think too, like, I've had friends and had people I know that I've had just like the most chaotic early life,
Oh yeah.
and they get to a point where they're stable. They're like, cool, I'm gonna fucking chill here. Like, they don't need to shoot. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't need
Yeah.
whatever. Like they have their own pursuits, but like they have a good relationship. They've got a solid like boyfriend, partner,
Yep.
girlfriend, whatever. They've got like a solid friendship circle. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna chill. And I think there are times where I think it's tough because it's a shade of gray.
Yeah.
Where you might generally do like want to strive for more, or want to strive for like like a raise at work, or maybe you want to move locales. Like, I've been in Minnesota for a while, let me move to like LA, whatever it is, and you might seek that opportunity and that growth. However, I think there's also the element of like, I feel stagnant. Why do you feel stagnant? I don't know. I just feel stagnant. I think that in itself is an effective comparison, because you might you might achieve something in your life and you're like, man, I feel great. And then you look at someone else and they're like, that person is the next level above you on the rung. Or like that person, like you just got a raise, like a 5K raise. This person got a 6K raise on Instagram that you just saw. And like, fuck, now I feel like, you know what I mean? Like now it's that stagnation that it's not holistic, that person, or inherent to that person, but it's an effective comparison.
And then you get that, and that could also be like a good fuel, or like actually beneficial, that they give you that little push, or like, okay, you kind of keep tabs potentially on that peer group of yours, where they're at, like in their stages of life, and can be a good, group to push one another to continue to grow in all different areas. It can very much be a beneficial thing. And then also, I'm not going to necessarily, like you said, knock somebody who is just kind of comfortable. It's that person that maybe you went to school with in high school or college, and then 10 years down the line, maybe your life has gone in a completely different direction, and you're making like really big strides, and you're a completely different person than who you were 10 years ago. And we all are, I get that. But that person that you maybe met back in high school, it's that classic kind of idea, like, oh, you're like the same, you're like that same person. Like you do the same things, you go to the same bar, you go to the same little league, you have the same job. Like, have you really grown? And not to say that that's a like bad thing. I don't want to get that across. Again, if you've been working the same job for whatever and you really enjoy it, and you're just kind of, again, you're content. There's nothing wrong with that. It's interesting coming across. Like I haven't had like a high school reunion. I don't know if I would necessarily like go to one.
Yeah, I didn't go to.
But it would just,
yeah.
it's that same idea. And like, comparison, like where are you at in your peer group? You meet somebody, that old high school friend, you're like, oh yeah, you're kind of the same. Is it not that it's a bad thing, but am I on the right track? Am I ahead of the curve? Am I a little bit behind? All of those different aspects, I think, is really fun.
Yeah, and it's like, oh god, sorry, move around and angle my chair. I just feel so lazy. I think trying to like phrase this the correct way, or kind of think of the correct way. But I think a lot of the time, people feel pressure to, again, it's how you define success. Like if someone has, like, let's say someone has a very stable job, it's not like the craziest thing in the world. They might be fine just staying pat because they're getting their success, they're getting their enjoyment of life outside of that professional. Maybe their professional job is just a job to them. If they punch in 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever that is, they punch in their card. Yeah. Figuratively, I don't know if you have punch cards anymore. Is that punch in your card figuratively.
Yeah.
But they're like, cool, I work this job so that
that's a different.
I stay consistent in this work, so that I do my work well, I do it consistently, so that I can, get more time with my family, or so that I can travel more, or so that I can, have a side hustle where
passion project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Where
that's admirable.
I design this for Etsy or whatever that is. But I think, and like, I think there's that idea of like, okay, well, to bring it back full circle, that's that side project that might be like, okay, cool. Like maybe you do that for a while, and maybe you only want that as a side. Maybe you never want to make that your thing. You know what I mean? Like I think the question has been brought to me before, like, oh, would you want to do this podcast full time? And I'm like, maybe. Like how much? But like, right. Is that can I just do this as like a side thing? Can we just do this and like maybe making a little extra? You know what I mean? To continue production, to like, because obviously, let's say for a podcast, like if you have like a subscription or whatever, like the more money you bring in, the more freedom you have to do other things.
Yep.
To put that money back into the podcast or other ventures. But ultimately, like if your success is like how much time I get to spend with my family, then you might not give a shit. if your job is, or your manager is cool with you doing your thing, and like that money is enough to live on and to provide a good life for your family. Cool.
And there are definitely benefits to being able to be financially free, obviously, and you don't have to worry, because how many people around the world, vast majority of us, where you're, again, it could be paycheck to paycheck, you have to worry about like, okay, I got to pay off this bill or that mortgage, I got to do X, Y, or Z, I got this car payment coming. Like, so many of us are stressed due to the financial situation that we, again, find ourselves in. So yeah, if you are, or in that position where you don't have to worry about finances, man, that's got to be such a great weight off of the shoulders. I can't personally say that I'm in that position. I still got my shit to pay, as do many of us. And yeah, what that opportunity would present, like if you do find that thing that you can do passive income, again, go back to the Jordan aspect of things. He got a percentage for each one of those shoes that was sold to the consumer, where he gets a little bit of cut of that, and that then surmounted to him being $3.76 billion net worth. And it's like, damn, that's some fucking money, where it can do whatever you want to.
No one should ever be that rich. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Well, and that's like,
No one should ever
do you even like, and that's the thing too. It's like, I feel like for most of us, what we would aspire to is maybe not necessarily the heights of Jordan, of whomever, where you have that just inconceivable amount of money, but like what it takes to be that person, like psychologically, like what it took to be the sacrifices that they needed to make. I don't know if we knew Jim Carrey's got a great line about that. It's like, I wish, and it's something along the lines of this. It's like, I wish people would be able to know what it's actually like to be like rich and famous, and then realize like that's not what's going to bring you happiness. Right. Something along the lines of that. But I think for most of us, what we aspire to is be like comfortably financially free of that burden of the house, the car, the next medical bill that's like coming through, and then be able to do a pursuit of the passion project that you really are passionate about, as opposed to like all of a sudden you get into like the factory work or something like that as a kid, and you just did it because it made some good money. And I feel like those are the instances potentially where you do something, you have that quote unquote like quarter life, midlife, whatever kind of crisis. You're like, oh shit, like, I want to make sure that this isn't just, I'm like reliving the same day over and over and over again. Are you getting to that growth in your relationships, spiritually, physically, that you can continue to strive for? I think that's like that little hamster wheel that kind of scares some of us, where you realize you're in that spot, you're in that little pit, you're like, oh fuck, like I need to get out of this. This isn't great. I need to get, some more traction, to get myself out of here. And that was kind of like, again, where we currently, find ourselves. You're always going to be making those shifts. You're never going to get to that end point, in your relationships, career, health, whatever. But have something to kind of like strive for, continue to make that like pursuit, so you can get some like little bit of traction going,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you make sacrifices. Like if you really want to dive into your professional life, like your personal life might take a hit. If you really want to dive into your personal life, professional, like I mean, there's always that to
give and take.
Absolutely. And I think, and it goes by like, how do you define success? And you might be really career oriented. My girlfriend Meg, very career oriented for several years. She's now like in her late 20s. I think that's okay for me to say. In her late 20s, she's a little younger than I am. And and now she wants a little bit more like the personal stuff. Like she does care about having a relationship. Like she does care about like where we are at here. And I think for me, for a long time too, like I was like I kind of, when I was younger, kind of treated like relationships in a certain way or dating in a certain way. And now I'm like, I actually like do kind of care about like what this looks like, building like an actual life with this person, because you're just getting into that stage. And so it's like your definition of like relational success, relationship success, or like professional success changes over time, right? I think obviously in our society, it's capitalist society, like you're going to be told that your worth is measured by how much money you make.
Yeah, what you bring into the company, and
that can be true in some cases, as far as like personally, that shouldn't. I hope that's not how we feel. Your self worth is much more than just your productivity. But if you really care about diving into like the professional production, and like really want to put your emphasis in that, that's awesome. That's great. Like but that goal can change over time. Maybe you do that for 20 years, and you're like, oh man, I'm fucking tired. Like let me focus on something else, or like vice versa. So I think it's important to know that like, yes, we don't want to compare, because you have to ask yourself, where am I in my stage? Where am I in my professional or financial or personal or development?
Well, and it's funny you bring up the relationship side of things too, because again, what sacrifices are going to need to be made? What are going to be some of the benefits and drawbacks? And if you're dating around and you're teens and 20s and you're just kind of like having fun exploring different relationships and all those aspects, like there's going to be benefits to it and drawbacks. Like, okay, you get to meet a bunch of new people, you get to have, not the long-term commitment side of things, but then all of a sudden, like maybe as we are both experiencing both in now some serious relationships and have the idea and the growth mindset of like wanting to continue to pursue those things. Again, there's going to be benefits to that. There's also going to be little drawbacks, like, okay, you're potentially looking at building a life and where do you want to be in 5 and 10 years? Like, hey, are we going to maybe move in together? What's the thought on like kids? Where do you want to, again, get your life to in
How
that,
many
in that
dogs
person?
do you have?
How many
That's the
dogs,
question, yeah.
I got Stevie right now. She's a little,
So many dogs.
love her. But, and then you got the, again, little drawbacks to it. Like, okay, now you are in a shared space, maybe where you were just kind of having like the little one-offs or short-term relationships. Now you're talking about like, oh yeah, we're going to like live together now. Like, what does that look like? Now you notice those little peccadillos of that person. They get to see you for who they really are. Like, are you willing to make that sacrifice now and be that level of vulnerability and for that growth in your relationship that you want? That's because I'm in that very same spot where I'm like, oh, okay, well, like we're talking about where do we want to see this in, a year or two, and just to have those conversations and be very intentional with it. And I think having that like more mature like mindset and outlook, and you actually are now thinking much longer term. I think as a kid, you don't have that ability to conceptualize time in that way, like, oh yeah, this will end, like look at where you are going to be in 5-10 years, the financial decision that you are making right now, how that's going to impact you in X, Y, or Z. I think as you get a little bit older, you start to recognize those things, and then that completely shifts, and you also, that is shifted based upon your experience that you had when you were a kid and you stubbed on your toe and you're like, oh, I didn't should have done that maybe a little bit different, maybe I had studied a little bit more, back then. But at the same time, you look back at those things and you're like, but now because of that experience and what I've gone through has gotten me here, and I can see the direction where I want to take my life.
No, I mean, I went from a 0.66 GPA my first semester of college, and I got a master's degree now. So it's like,
Yeah.
now how much does that? I mean, how much does a master's degree really worth? I don't know.
Oh
Like,
gosh, then we got
the
that.
inflation of degrees.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that now what equivalent to like that of a GED or something? I don't
No, please
know.
don't say that to me. But yeah, no, I think like you that's a really good point where it's like, a lot of those times like you have to struggle early with the idea of success, and I think that again it's very normal to change it, and it's even worth like looking at like directly doing that or purposely doing that and saying, okay, cool, it's been a year, like what do I want to still work on? Or it's been 2 years, like is my success definition of it the same as this now? Or if you've never written out your definition of success, do that.
That's a
Like, what does this look like for me? Do I care more about my fitness or my health, or do I care more about my
where,
family?
yeah,
Or,
where are those
yeah,
priorities?
like if don't let your family see it if it's they're like low on the list. But you have to then wonder like, why do you
Yeah.
have a family? So but I think it's just like, okay, well, and maybe those are even too broad. Like, what is a specific definition of success? Like almost like a goal setting
Yeah,
session,
honestly.
right? And I think that is a really good way for helping you mitigate the feelings of maybe insecurity or feelings of insecurity.
Just feelings are like, even feeling kind of feeling like lost, or you're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just kind of like life is just
Yeah.
carrying me along, versus like, no, you get to pave the path that you want to go to, as opposed to, again, that I feel like we've all probably been there, or at least I know I have, where you just like you feel like, yeah, you've just been brought along by the current,
Yeah.
in a way, and you're like, how did I get here? I don't know. I'm just
there
fucking
are-
here now.
Like
you
there
know?
are, I will say, kind of like, and I don't have like a fully written out definition of success, but I will look at like, let's say I will look at like Instagram, and there's a post about people going out to this like really fancy bar and like having like tons
Oh,
of fucking
yeah.
friends. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like that's not. But
Yeah.
for me, that's not my definition of success. I think there was a time that maybe that would have been. But it's like I look at this like fancy food and like these people that are dressed in like these super nice clothes. I'm like, yeah, I'd like to do that every once in a while. But I'm just as happy like getting out, like it's a beautiful day out, like getting out for like a hike.
Yep.
And like I need like boots and like pants and like a jacket for that. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? So I think like a big thing, especially again, which is how easily accessible people's lives are via social media. And of
That's a-
course, it's a highlight reel. But asking yourself that question of like, do I actually value this?
Yeah.
Do I actually give a fuck?
And that's where I think like
I don't know.
you touched on like just the impact of social media and how much that drastically influences our psychology and our perception of where we are amongst our peer group, because never before in human history have we had that access to be able to look at the top tier people in all areas of life and be like, oh my gosh, it's so easy to like see how you can just look at the billions of people within this world and where they're at within their lives and look at little old you and be like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, are you serious? Like, the travel nurse can just fucking go wherever. Like, well, oh, I should have went that path, or oh, I could have been there, over there. Like, never before have we had that unlimited, unfiltered access to all of these people and where they're taking their lives. That it's easy to see how we just get caught up in that comparison. And I think, like how you said, taking that time to be able to determine what success like looks for you, sometimes it would be really good and beneficial to be able to like disconnect, unwind, engage in those behaviors and sit down like, oh yeah, am I doing this even for me? Do I even fucking like doing this? There was so many times going down to a bar at night because it just felt like in college that was the thing that you were supposed to fucking do. Like, and I was like, I just came to the realization, like, I don't even like this. Why am I drinking? This sucks. Like, I hate how I feel the next morning. Why the fuck am I doing this? Why am I working the desk job where I'm like, I don't even like this, but I'm doing it maybe because it has like maybe some benefit, but I actually would way be more passionate to go there. And it's like when you find yourself in that moment, like, man, make the change. But like, yeah, again, you sometimes engage in those behaviors because you think it's what you're supposed to do. It's the norm to go out and drink and party in college. And then there's just one night where you're like, no, I don't really want to do this. And it aligns more with your values and then trends off in that completely different direction. Like last night, Michaela and I, we were sitting down, had a reservation to go to Upstairs Circus, North Loop. And it was like, oh yeah, that'd be kind of fun. Get out in a little nightlife. Both of us, mind you, are two individuals that like to go to bed fairly early. And we just finally came to the realization, we're like, we're good. Let's just chill in and watch a movie, and we're gonna
both work odd jobs where it's like you are the fitness person who like coaches early classes.
Yeah.
And she works in the medical industry, so she's up at weird fucking hours too. I'm sure. You know what I mean, or on call at certain times. So.
But yeah, and just to get caught up in this is maybe what we should do. It's a Saturday night. Like, let's go out. And you're like, nah. Like,
Meg and I watched like 2 episodes of Love Is Blind last night and ate popcorn and like snacks.
We restarted Schitt's Creek.
Nice.
Yeah.
You love that show.
It's so, well, we were sitting there, like, we were trying to determine on movies, like, all right, well, what should we watch? And we're like, fuck it. Let's just like get into a TV show that we can always just like pop on into the back room. That's not like a huge time commitment, And then it's just easy to kind of work our way through that and just something to kind of giggle and laugh at. So, yeah. But
love that.
Either way, it was again, we got to that point where I think both you and I are now in our lives. We've had the maturity, the now experience of going through those different struggles and hardships, and we've now have a very robust understanding of where our values are and where our passion is and where our interest. And we're fortunate enough to be in that position as well, because there's a lot of people, and not to say that it's just an age thing. Like, the older that you get, people are still going to have those same exact scenarios where they're like, oh shit, what am I doing? You could be in your 40s, you could be in your 50s, you could be in your 60s, like, oh no, like, I want to course correct. And it's like, yeah, then make that course correction. Like, whatever you got to do, don't be scared about doing it either. Is where I align, or at least like my values. Like, I can imagine myself in like 20 years, if I am in that situation, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really want to do this as a career anymore. Like, make sure you probably still have a good idea that it's going to be stable, or, that you're going to be able to take care of yourself and whatnot. But yeah, we're kind of in that situation now where I'm very fortunate to look back at my past, the experiences that I've gone through, the mistakes that I made, which are also part of the whole equation. You got to go for that pursuit and know that you might fuck up, you might trip up. It might have been I don't want to say bad decision or poor decision or the wrong decision, because it got you to where you're at now, but you're going to have instances where you're like, yeah, you're going to mess up, you're going to trip up, you're going to fall, you're going to fuck up. And that's going to lead you. It's all a data point. It's all something that you can learn from, as long as you have that ability or that vision to be like, oh yeah, I can learn from this experience,
So learn from your experiences.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd say that's a good place to end. Those were some good final thoughts, I feel like. That's a good wrap up.
I thought so.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, So, team, thanks for listening today. Kory, that was a fun time.
Very much.
Appreciate you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Let's do this again sometime.
How long have we been friends now? When did we meet?
Oh God. Well, when did you join Orange Theory back in the day? 2020? 2019?
No, it was before 2020.
2019.
Yeah. Somewhere in there.
So yeah, long time. 5 years. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It was like yesterday.
Yeah, honestly, perfect little example. All of a sudden, it comes to this, like deciding to, I don't know, whatever the first day it was that we decided, like, oh yeah, I'll go meet up with that coworker from Orange Theory. We'll go shoot around, maybe shoot some hoops, and then it comes to this where now we're doing a podcast, which I know has been something we've always wanted to do for quite some time, and it's like just those little decisions, the Nike endorsement of Michael Jordan, not comparing necessarily you and I to Michael Jordan, but who the fuck knows?
$3 billion.
But just one of those decisions, like who knows where this like continues to develop into, but it's cool to know that you feel as though like you're on the right track, And I think this podcast, like what we're doing, the messages and the conversations that we want to have and the people that we want to bring on and where we want to develop this, I think is something that we're both, again, aligns with our values, our passions, our pursuit of where we want to take this. And it's just really exciting to, have you as a partner in that. So, yeah.
Well, team, feel free to DM us, Instagram, Average Bros Gym Podcast. You can also reach out via email. Send us, not even just your questions. Send us your questions.
Yep.
averagebrosgympodcast@gmail.com. But also send us, your stories. I think we're kind of cool. Your success stories, your failure stories, whatever. I think it'd be kind of a fun thing to share on the pod, with or without names. Obviously, don't want to, throw anybody under the bus.
Especially if you've also had some stories that you swam with orca whales or humpback whales or blue whales or dolphins, or some maybe sketchy roller coaster stories or something, because that's where it really started.
Send us listener stories that we'd love to have that on.
Who knows? We might have you on the podcast if you got a good one.
Gosh, yeah. There we go. Do a little guest work. We got some other guests lined up along the way as well.
Yes, stay tuned.
I gotta figure out how to do the remote stuff. I'm just afraid of the audio overlapping and messing everything up. But we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. Otherwise, team, send us your stories. Let us know. Send us your questions, whatever. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, a great month, great year. Have a great 2024, guys. We'll see you in 2025. I'll be back next week with another episode.